welcome to DIY with Nancy. Today I'm going to be making a recipe I've already made here on DIY with Nancy. However, it's a smaller recipe, and that recipe is my Malassadas Portuguese donuts. This recipe will make anywhere from 8 to 10 malassadas, depending how big or how small you form the malassada. But it's perfect if you want to have some malassadas at home. These malassadas are super fluffy and so delicious. And I hope you stay with me to watch how to make my small recipe for Malassadas Portuguese donuts step by step. To make the small recipe for Malassadas Portuguese donuts, I'm going to start off with placing 1.5 cups of milk in a medium-sized saucepan. Now to the milk, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now once you've added your butter, you want to turn your stove on to a low to medium heat and watch the mixture. All you want is for your butter to be melted into the milk, and you don't want this mixture to be boiled. You just want a lukewarm butter and milk mixture. The butter has now melted and the milk and butter mixture are fairly warm. At this point, I'm going to turn off the heat and move on to the next step. Now on to the next step. I'm going to start activating my yeast, and I'm going to start off by placing 1 teaspoon of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of all-purpose flour, and 1.5 tablespoons of active dry yeast. Mix that together. And now I'm going to add 1/2 cup of lukewarm water right into the mixture. You want to stir it to combine. Now once you've combined your yeast mixture, you want to set it aside, and now we're going to move on to the next step while the yeast is activating. Now for the next step, I'm going to use my mixer, and I'm going to start off with 1/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. I'm adding 2 large eggs, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I'm adding the zest of 1/2 lemon. Okay, and I'm going to add the whisk attachment for the mixing. And I'm going to place the mixer on a high speed and let it mix for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes of mixing, you can see that the mixture is creamy. Now I'm ready to reduce the mixer to a low speed and add the milk and butter mixture that I prepared earlier that is now lukewarm. So while the mixture is still going, you're going to gradually add the milk and butter mixture. Once you've added the milk and butter mixture, let it continue mixing for an additional 30 seconds. The mixture is well combined. I'm now going to stop the mixer, and I'm going to add this mixture to a larger bowl. I'm just going to remove the attachment. I want you to take a look at the mixture. You'll see it's a creamy mixture. Now I'm ready to transfer this mixture to a larger bowl to make the dough for the malassadas. Now for the next step, here is a large bowl. I'm going to place the liquid mixture that we mixed earlier in the mixer. And to that, I'm going to add the activated yeast. You can see it's activated. There's bubbles on the top. It's very important that your yeast is activated and you include all of the yeast that's been in the bowl. Now I'm just going to stir to combine the liquid mixture along with the yeast and combine it well. And at this point, I'm going to add the last ingredient, and that is 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. Now I'm ready to start the kneading process. I'm going to bring the flour from the outside in, combining the flour with the liquid mixture. And once I see that the mixture is well combined, at that point I will start kneading the dough. Now try to keep the flour in, don't do what I'm doing here. Now I like to use my hands for malassadas just because I like to feel the texture of the dough. So what I'm doing here is just kneading, and I'm just making sure that the mixture is well combined, and you'll see that it starts off like a wet based sticky dough, but gradually as you're kneading it, you'll see that the dough will start thickening. I'm going to continue kneading for about 5 minutes. Now this recipe is small enough that you can use your mixer and your hook attachment for this process of kneading the dough. Now after kneading, you should end up with a fluffy dough. Now at this point, I'm going to cover up my dough and make sure I keep it in a warm place, and I'm going to cover it for about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to come back to it and I'm going to knead it again. Here I have a bowl with lukewarm water, and I'm going to be dipping my hands into the water as I'm kneading the dough. And all I'm going to do is mix it for about 30 seconds and then cover it up again and let it rise for another hour. After kneading it a second time, you're now ready for the second rise. And I'm just using some tablecloths here to cover the dough, and I'm going to keep it in a warm place and let it rise for an additional hour. After 1 hour, the dough has more than doubled in size. And now I'm going to show you what the dough looks like after the second rise. You can see it's nice and fluffy and ready to make malassadas. For the next step, I have a setup, and I'm going to be using the setup to make my malassadas. I have the dough, I have milk, which I'll be dipping my hands in to make the patties for the malassadas. I have hot vegetable oil going here on a medium heat. I have a tray with some paper towel to place the malassadas after they're fried. I also have sugar, granulated sugar, that I'll be using to dip the malassadas and coat them with the sugar. Now let's start off by taking a little bit of the dough and placing it into the oil to see if it's ready to be fried. And it is. You can see when it pops up, the oil is hot enough and we're ready to fry the malassadas. I'm just going to start off by removing this little piece of dough. I don't want it in the middle of my malassadas, and I'm going to start off with dipping my hands into the milk, and I'm just going to make sure my hands are fairly soaked with the milk, and then I'm going to take a piece of the dough and stretch it out. So I'm going to show you step by step. So if you can see what I'm doing, I'm holding the dough on the edges and my fingers are underneath, stretching the center of the dough. Now you can make your malassadas as big or as small as you like them. These are going to be fairly large. And now that I stretched out the dough, placing it into the oil to let the dough fry, and on to the next one. To ensure that you check on your malassadas. They do brown fairly quickly, and I'm just going to check on the first one. Just going to flip it over soon. Let's see. Perfect. Nice and brown. The malassadas do fry fairly quickly, anywhere from 2 to 2.5 minutes, and your malassadas are done. So you want to keep an eye on it. I just want you to see the process of how long it takes. So I'm going to flip this one onto the other side. And you just want to see that it takes about a couple of minutes, really, for the malassadas to be ready. And my first malassada is ready. I'm just going to drain the oil before I place it into the tray and check on my next one. My malassadas are ready. All there's left to do is to coat them with some granulated sugar. Now for the last and final step, I have about 2.5 cups of granulated sugar in a bowl, and I'm coating both sides of the malassada with the granulated sugar. Of course, I'm giving it a generous amount of sugar because that's how I like my malassadas, and I'm going to continue doing that with all the malassadas. And there you have it. My malassadas are ready to be served. Fofinhas, quentinhas e deliciosas. Now there's nothing like a soft, warm, fluffy malassada Portuguese donut. Look at this. I want you to see inside how fluffy and soft these malassadas are. I'm going to break into it again because I can't put this whole piece in my mouth, but oh, wow. The warmth of this malassada just makes your mouth water. And look how fluffy it is. Now I'm going to take a bite. So good. With a nice cup of coffee. A vamos com salada, as my mother would say. Absolutely delicious. And there you have it. That was my small recipe for malassadas, Portuguese donuts. This recipe makes 8 to 10, like I said earlier, depending how big or how small you make the malassadas. I got 10 malassadas today. There is times that I make them a little larger and I only get 8. Regardless, it's perfect recipe for us here at home. I hope you all enjoyed the recipe today. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Take care.